Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how I made this dress, this inspiration I found on Pinterest, how I recreated it. I'll be showing you the whole process, the cutting, the sewing and all of that good stuff. So if you're here for the first time, thank you so much for coming. If you are coming back as a subscriber, thank you, I love you. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a fashion entrepreneur. I have a fashion business. I make dresses. I have an Instagram page called Abiye Fashion, so please follow. The link will be in the description below. Follow and then make inquiries and support us. So today I'll be showing you how I make this dress. Enjoy this video with me. Here's the fabric I'll be using. I'll be measuring my body measurements, the bust, waist and the hip, and I'm ruling them out. My measurements are in cm. I'm ruling out the waistline now and the hip line. My bust circumference, my waist circumference and the hip circumference will be on this bust line, waistline and the hip line. So I went on to mark out the chest measurements. Chest placement is 4 centimeters above the bust line, and I divided my chest measurement into 2 to get this point, and also went on to mark out the measurement, my waist circumference, which I divided by 4 already, plus the allowance I would want in the dress for how free I want the dress to be. I used 2.5 centimeters, and then sewing allowance I used 4 centimeters for sewing allowance. So if I want to increase the size of the dress, I could do that later on. And I did the same thing for the waistline and also for the hip line, adding 2.5 centimeters for the space, the allowance in the dress. I would want how free the dress I want the dress to be, and 4 centimeters for the sewing allowance. Here I had to make a correction because I added the allowance twice, so I had to make a correction and take the right measurement for the waist to get the exact thing I was looking for. So this is the shape the dress is going to take to the waist, to the hip, and then it's just going to follow that measurement down to the end of the fabric. Here I'm just using the curve, the pattern curve, to mark out or draw out the line, the shape of the dress on the waist, from the bust to the waist to the hip. So I'm not drawing any line at the hip downwards because I'll just take a straight cut down to the end of the fabric. Right now I am marking out the basic neckline just to give me a guide on how I want the neckline to be. So this is not very necessary for this part, but I'm just doing it so I can have a guide for those who are not familiar with how to create a basic neckline. I'm just using 3 inches by 3 inches, and I'll go on to draw the curve, yes, for the neckline. This is just going to be a guide for me. And the next step is to draw the shoulder line. After getting the shoulder measurement, I go down by 2 inches to give you that slant on the shoulder, so I know where my shoulder is going to start from and where it stops. I went on to just draw the line. All this was just to give me a guide because I'm not using this exact shoulder measurement for the dress. I will create the neckline for the dress as you watch. So after that, I draw a line from the shoulder points to the chest line, giving it a guide. That's a guide for me to draw the armhole curve. I'm taking the center measurement, the midpoint of that straight line, drawing 1 cm inwards so I can get that arc from the shoulder to the chest point, and also curve it into the armhole to to give the complete armhole curve. After drawing the armhole, the next thing to do is to change the neckline. To draw the original neckline, we will need draw in the and also change the armhole to give that curve on the dress. So we're taking the base of the neckline, rolling it across the shoulder, and then marking out the midpoint so that you can measure out the width of the sleeve. And the sleeve is just a strap that's there, so you're measuring out the strap. I used 1.5 inches for this strap, the sleeve measurements, giving room for allowance. That 1.5 inches is like 4 centimeters, so that's exactly what I used for it. And it also curved into changing the armhole, curving it into the midpoint, and drawing the armhole correctly to give it that nice finish. So the next thing to do is to draw out the neckline and also to create the allowance for the strap. It's just going to be about 1.5 inches wide for the allowance, 1/2 inch on both sides, and then 1/2 inch for the strap itself. So that's what we're creating there now. And then once that is done, the pattern is ready. I just go on to cut out the fabric, the marked parts and everything, to get the pieces, the different pieces that will be sewing together. So after cutting, I went on to create the facing for the fabric, for the cloth. I'm cutting it out now, just taking the exact measurements on the main fabric, cutting 2 pieces out for the back and the front. So you can see that because I turned the fabric, folded it into 4 places, I did not have to do a second cutting for the back. I just did the same pattern for the front and the back. I'm doing the same thing, exact same thing for the facing I'm creating too. After this, the next thing left is to create the straps. Create the straps for the shoulder straps, and that's the facing. Yeah, I just trimmed it off and then gave it a shape just for it to look nice and look like a facing. So I went on to create the straps of about 9 inches long, which were too long for the dress. I later had to adjust it. So the next thing, what was left, was just to sew the fabrics together and get the finished look. Here I was just joining the 2 pieces, the back and the front. For this part, I did not sew all the way to the bottom of the fabric, just to create the place for the slits, where the slit will be. So I had to stop halfway. Now I'm joining the pieces for the shoulder straps. After joining them, I'll turn them inside out to get that 1/2 inch width that I desire, and then go on to join the straps with the main fabric and the facing together. At the shoulder points, I'm actually fixing the strap for the sleeve in between the facing and the main fabric, making sure that they lie properly so I don't stitch on the wrong parts. So I fix them up and then hold them up with pins and then go straight to the machine to sew them and put them in place. While sewing, I was careful not to sew on the sides of the strap so that it does not get stuck. So after that, I went on to top stitch on the facing. A top stitch helps to keep the facing in place and also to give your garment a neat neckline. And then after this, I also went on to hem the garment and give it its final finishing. So that's all for the creation of this slip dress. It's the next day and I'm ready to go for a wedding. I feel so excited.